I was halfway through my coffee when my brother's voice sliced through the buzz of the conference lobby. Relax, he told the circle of people around him, loud enough for half the room to hear. She's just admin. Fancy badge, same old desk job. A few of them chuckled. I felt every laugh land on my skin like a slap. My name is Kira Anderson, and for as long as I can remember, that's all I've ever been to my family. The organized one. The girl who answers emails, books flights, fixes everyone's mess quietly in the background. The human eraser for other people's mistakes. Today, though, I'm not just someone's little sister hanging on the edge of a conversation. I'm standing in the middle of the Ascend Leadership Summit, the event my team built from a spreadsheet into a reality. And my just admin brother, David, has no idea what room he's really standing in. He's gesturing toward me now, still performing. She loves this stuff. Schedules, color coding, spreadsheets. I mean, hey, somebody's got to print the name tags, right? The group laughs again. My chest tightens, but I don't look away. Not this time. Next to him, his wife Lauren tilts her head. She's studying me with a curiosity I've never seen from anyone in my family. Her eyes flick from my badge to the massive, sleek logo on the banner behind me, then back to my face. "So, Kira," she asks, her smile polite but her gaze sharp, "what is it exactly that you do here?" The entire circle goes quiet, waiting for me to mumble something small, something that fits the story my brother has written for me for 20 years. But I'm done living in his footnotes. I take a breath. A decade of swallowed words, of promotions celebrated alone, of victories met with his dismissive, "That's nice, sis," rises to the surface. I let my answer sharpen down to a single, flawless, devastating word. But let me rewind. Let me tell you how the scaffolding of my life was built to hold his dreams, not mine. Growing up, David wasn't just my older brother, he was the family's sun. I was the moon, useful for a little light in the dark, but never the source of warmth. David's the visionary, my father would announce at every dinner, as if reading from a script. Kira's the practical one, she'll keep him grounded. They called me grounded, it felt like buried. I color-coded his science fair coasters. I typed his college applications because his handwriting was too chaotic for serious consideration. When he forgot his passport for his first big internship interview, I drove through a rainstorm to deliver it. He got the internship. I got a pat on the head and a "what would I do without you?" The phrase "just admin" entered our lexicon when we were in our 20s. He'd brought his new glossy friends from business school home. They were talking about market disruption. I mentioned streamlining the invoice system at my office, saving thousands. David chuckled. "Don't bore them with admin stuff, Kira. They're talking big picture." The table laughed. My face burned. I became a ghost at my own family table. Present, necessary, invisible. What he never saw, what none of them saw, was that admin is where you learn the truth. You see the confidential memos before they're sanitized for leadership. You know which VP is about to be fired because you process the severance paperwork. You understand a company's real weaknesses by seeing what it desperately tries to organize, hide, or fix. I didn't just organize files, I reverse engineered power, and I was brilliant at it. Quietly, relentlessly, I climbed, from coordinator to manager to director of a department so new it didn't have a name yet. Strategic Operations and Acquisitions Integration. My title was a mouthful designed to be forgettable. My role was simple. I was the gatekeeper. I decided which companies were worth my firm's billions and which were built on pretty PowerPoints and empty promises. David's company, Nexitech, landed in my queue 6 months ago. I'd stared at the file, my blood turning to ice. There was his name, David Anderson, Senior VP of Product Development. His photo, the same smug grin staring back from the corporate leadership page. The deal was massive. His pet project, Synergy, was their golden ticket. My director knew he was my brother. "Conflict?" he asked, one eyebrow raised. I said, "We don't speak the same professional language," which was the truest thing I'd ever uttered. "Good, then be ruthless. If the numbers stink, burn it." And the numbers stank. Missed deadlines masked by frantic overtime, quality assurance reports filled with alarming overrides, a culture of brilliant jerks that led to massive turnover. The data painted a picture of a house of cards, expertly painted to look like a fortress. I compiled the report. My recommendation was a single, cold sentence: not a viable partner at this time. Risk exceeds any potential reward. The report was sent up the chain, and the Ascend Summit became the final audition for Nexitech, their last chance to charm us in person. So there I was, in the lobby, surrounded by the glittering evidence of my own labor, being reduced to a punchline by the very person whose future I held in my hands. Lauren's question hung in the air. "What is it exactly that you do here?" David waved a hand. "Lauren, she runs the logistics, makes sure the coffee's hot and the Wi-Fi works." He winked at me, expecting my usual compliant smile. I didn't smile. I looked at Lauren, then at David's colleagues, polished, eager men hanging on his every word. I looked at my brother, still grinning, utterly secure in the hierarchy he'd built in his mind. I set my coffee cup down. The sound was tiny, but final. "Acquisitions," I said. The word didn't echo. It absorbed sound. The chatter around us died. A server passing by with a tray paused. David's smile froze. "What?" "I work in acquisitions," I repeated, my voice clear and calm, carrying in the new silence. "Strategic operations and acquisitions integration. I lead the team that evaluates which companies we invest in, partner with, or acquire." I let a beat pass. "Companies like Nexitech." You could have heard a pin drop on the carpeted floor. Lauren's hand flew to her mouth. Her eyes were wide, darting from my badge to David's suddenly pale face. One of David's colleagues, a man named Greg, cleared his throat. You're on the Ascend Capital evaluation team for the Synergy deal?" I gave a single, slow nod. My team wrote the due diligence report. David looked like he'd been physically shoved. The color drained from his face, leaving two blotchy red spots on his cheeks. "You're lying. That's a conflict of interest." "I disclosed our relationship immediately," I said, tilting my head. "They asked if I could be objective. I assured them I could." I paused, letting the implication hang. "My professional judgment isn't based on childhood dynamics, David. It's based on data. And your data has problems." The humiliation in his eyes was a live wire. It wasn't just about the deal now. It was about his story, the story where he was the star and I was the stagehand, shattering in front of his audience. "You never said, you never asked," I replied softly. "You were too busy telling everyone who I was." The rest of the summit unfolded like a beautifully crafted revenge thriller. At the closed-door session an hour later, I sat across from Nexitech's anxious CEO and their sweating CFO. David, notably, was not in the room. He wasn't senior enough for this meeting. Our VP led. "We have significant concerns, primarily around operational sustainability and cultural integrity. Kira, can you walk us through the key findings?" I opened my tablet. I didn't mention David. I didn't need to. I spoke about patterns, about burnout rates triple the industry average, about the Synergy project's history of cutting corners on security protocols, about the exodus of key engineers documented in exit interviews, all citing toxic leadership and unrealistic demands from product leadership. I was clinical, precise, ruthless. When their CEO tried to bluster, to charm, to deflect, I would reference a specific document, a date, a dollar figure. I was a human database of their failures, and I had every receipt. The meeting ended with a promise to reevaluate. We all knew what that meant. David ambushed me on the rooftop terrace during the networking cocktail hour. The sun was setting, painting the skyline in angry oranges and reds. "You're trying to destroy me," he hissed, grabbing my arm. I looked down at his hand until he released it. "No, David, you built something fragile. I'm just pointing out the cracks before my company spends $1 billion on it." You could fix this, he pleaded, his voice cracking. It was a new sound. Desperation. You could interpret the data, emphasize the vision. I'm your brother. There it was, the ultimate currency he thought he still had. Family. Do you remember my promotion last year? When I became a director, you sent a text. One text. It said, "Congrats, now you can afford the good coffee for the office." I looked out at the city. That's who you are to me, the person who minimizes every achievement. So why, when it's your achievement on the line, should I be anything other than professional? He stared at me, his breath fogging in the cool evening air. For the first time, he saw me, really saw me, not as his little sister, but as a force, a judge, and he was afraid. "If this deal dies, I'm finished," he whispered. I felt a pang, an old, familiar reflex to soothe, to fix, to protect. I swallowed it. Then you should have built something stronger. The official decision came 2 weeks later. Nexitech was removed from consideration. The email from leadership cited significant and irreconcilable operational deficiencies, quoting my report verbatim. The fallout was nuclear. David was reassigned, a polite word for being put in a corner to stare at spreadsheets until he quit. His golden boy status at the company evaporated. My family's reaction was a masterpiece of denial. My mother's call was tears and accusations. "How could you be so selfish after everything he's done for you?" "What has he ever done for me, Mom?" I asked, my voice terrifyingly calm. "Name one thing, one time he put my needs before his, Joe." Silence. Then, "He's family. That's what matters." "It doesn't matter more than my integrity," I said, and hung up. My father sent a long email about loyalty. I didn't reply. Lauren, to her credit, called me. "He's devastated," she said. "But, Kira, I read the public summary of the report. The things about the culture, they were true, weren't they? The way he treats his team." "Yes," I said. She sighed, a sound of profound disappointment. "He never told me that. He only ever told me you were being petty." "I know," I said. "He's been telling that story about me for years." That was 6 months ago. David and I don't speak. My parents and I are in a silent, cold detente. It hurts. Some days it aches like a phantom limb. But here is what else happened. At work, my reputation transformed. I was no longer the quiet, capable director. I was the one with unshakable ethics, the one who couldn't be swayed, even by family. I was given a larger team, a bigger budget, a seat at the table I'd earned long ago. I bought an apartment, a beautiful, sun-drenched space with a view that was mine. No one could dismiss it as a cute little place. And I started saying my title out loud with pride, to dates, to old friends, at parties. Last week, I was at an industry gala. An associate of my father's, a man who'd always called me David's little sister, approached me. "Kira, I heard about that Nexitech business. Nasty stuff. Your brother really took a fall, huh?" I sipped my champagne. "Did he?" The man blinked. "Well, yes. I heard your report was pretty brutal." I looked him directly in the eye, a small, cool smile on my lips. It was accurate. In my line of work, there's no room for sentimentality, only performance. He stared at me, his jovial mask slipping, finally seeing the power in the quiet woman before him. He mumbled an excuse and scurried away. I stood there, alone in the crowd, and felt whole. The revenge was never about destroying David. It was about dismantling the cage he'd built around me with his words. It was about trading his narrative for my truth. The most powerful revenge isn't violence. It's revelation. It's looking at the person who made you small and revealing with a single perfect word that you were a giant all along. So, tell me, What's the one word you're ready to say?